Well, hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Today we will dive into a very exciting topic, empowering L&D, AI use cases that actually work. This session is eligible for HRCI, SHRM, and ATD, Professional Development Credits. Let's meet today's speakers. First up, we have Richard Cacavalli. Richard has over 25 years of experience in educational technology with institutional background ranging from universities to startups to industry-leading companies. Before joining NovoEd, he led marketing teams at fast-growing, innovative companies including Blackboard and Echo 360. He has a passion for education and has dedicated his career to enabling better learning through technology. Next up, we have Farnaz Ronagi. Farnaz designed and built the first version of NovoEd platform in 2012 at Stanford's Social Algorithms Lab. The project was part of her PhD thesis on collaborative learning at scale, and her research focused on the incentives and motivators in online learning environments. Lastly, we have Alan Mellish. Alan has spent the past 14 years serving the HCM community as an industry analyst and marketing strategist. Alan has run industry conferences, built original research, and worked in agencies to build HR tech brands. As a principal analyst for Brennan Hall Group, Alan draws on his expertise to raise the bar for HCM expertise and build market share for top-tier HR solution providers. Thank you to today's webinar sponsor, NovoEd. NovoEd was founded at Stanford's Social Algorithms Lab in 2012. NovoEd is a capability building platform that uses social and collaborative learning to drive performance readiness at scale. NovoEd taps into collective wisdom, placing each learner at the center of perspective, application, and expertise. Large enterprises such as 3M, GE, and Nestle partner with NovoEd to accelerate their critical initiatives, reconnect teams, and achieve rapid alignment through learning that is felt, experienced, and swiftly transformed into impact. Visit novoed.com to learn more. We want to remind everyone that the annual Brennan Hall Group Excellence Conference is being held in Florida, January 28th through 30th, 2025. Registration is now open. We can't wait to see you there. We also invite you, as always, to participate in our research surveys. We have 3 that are active now. Links will be available in your handout, or you can always visit brennanhall.com. Once the results are analyzed, all participants receive a piece of complimentary research and other exclusive benefits. We currently have our Excellence in Action program open for application. For more information, please check out excellenceawards.brennanhall.com. Our institute represents the culmination of 3 decades of excellence in HCM and includes evidence-based solutions for your most pressing challenges, professional development for your entire team, access to the collective wisdom of global HCM leaders, and networking with peers who share your commitment to excellence. We are excited to share that at the end of today's webinar, we will be selecting our 2 raffle winners. You can be a winner of 50% off the 2025 HCM Excellence Conference, or you could win a free Excellence in Action program submission. Stay tuned to see if you are the lucky winner. You must be present to win. Now, just a few quick things to note. If you have any questions, please use the questions panel on your control bar. We will answer questions throughout the webinar and at the end. We're recording this webinar and we'll email you the link and a PDF of the slides within 24 hours. The chat box is open, so feel free to share your thoughts as we go along. Your input makes this more valuable for everyone. Now, I would like to pass things off to Alan Mellish.
Thank you, Ivy, as always, for taking care of introductions and housekeeping. I'm very excited to be on this webinar today. We spent a lot of hard work coming up with all of this information for you, and I'm going to give you a quick snapshot of how we're going to cover things today. The title of the webinar is really all about trying to take the promise of AI for learning and see where it lines up with reality, what people are using it for, what people are using it for successfully, what are some concerns. So we're going to take a quick spin through some research that we have, get a look at how things are currently shaping up in the industry and how you all are using this new technology for learning. Then take a peek into the future, and we're going to have a lot of discussion here about both that future outlook and what the best use cases are for AI and learning. And then, of course, we're going to cover security and compliance considerations, because that is a big topic, as you'll see. So, without further ado, I will get things started. And also, we really love it when these things look like a conversation rather than just a one-way dialogue with us and you. So please do, as Ivy said, use the chat or Q&A feature so that we can get your feedback and ideas and comments as we go. So first of all, I want to start things off with a poll here in the interest of there. And we're going to, we want you to select the statement that best describes your organization's use of AI in learning and development. It could, we're really trying to get the whole bell curve here, whether you're not using AI at all for L&D and don't intend to start, all the way to we're already using it every day. It's fully rolled out and integrated throughout the learning function in our organization and everything in between. So I'm going to give everybody just a minute to respond to that. And then Ivy, can you share the results? Okay. So what I'm seeing here is there's a few of you that are not using it at all and not intending to it, but we've got a big meaty group here in the center that are using AI in L&D, but still experimenting with it in a limited way. And then there's, again, a small amount of you that are using it every day, have it fully rolled out in your organization. So just want to pass it over to Rich and Farnaz real quick. Does this line up with more or less what you're seeing with your clients, your customers, or are you seeing something a little different?
I mean, fairly aligned. However, we work with innovative L&D teams, and that way our client base might be a little bit more biased. Most of our clients have already tried using AI for at least one of pieces of their learning stack. However, as you see in this data, the 75%, most of this use is in experimentation or smaller scale deployments and not yet deployed at any enterprise scale. So fairly aligned.
Yeah. Okay. You would agree with that, Rich?
Yeah, I would. Definitely seeing the majority in the experimental mode. And that's going to align with some of the topics we talk about here today, I believe.
Yeah. So everybody's in the right place, it sounds like. So here we go. So moving on with the slides here, this kind of lines right up with the, I tricked you all into aligning with the research that we've done with our own membership, our own HCM knowledge base. And this data here, I don't know what happened there. Sorry about that, everybody. This data here on the left, you'll see organizations using AI technology in learning. These are a few of the ways that that we're seeing in the marketplace, people using AI, personalized learning recommendations, generating learning content and courseware. But the third most common answer to that question was not using AI for learning at all. And now this data is, several months old at this point, so I bet it's shifted. I bet that's shifted a little bit, but there's still, some cautiousness about the adoption there. And then number two, if you look at the right-hand corner, you'll see that the benefits that those of you who are using AI for learning the primary benefits there are reduced training costs and increased efficiency. I memean, that just makes sense on the face of things. Personalized learning experiences. We're going to get into that a little bit deeper, but we definitely, that is backed up by what we've been seeing, that there's definitely a lot of benefit there in terms of AI taking something that's already existing and then modifying it or fine-tuning it to make things a little more personalized, a little more customized to how the individual learner experiences it. So although I will also point out that the fourth most common answer is no discernible benefits. So we've got a few Luddites or folks who just haven't found the right fit for their organization's approach to learning with AI yet. Moving right along to some of the barriers to AI adoption. This doesn't come as a surprise to me, given just the nature of AI technology, the way it sort of feeds on data and then takes that and transforms it into value. There is a challenge with there is challenges and concerns with this being so new, in the fact that organizations are leery of sharing too much data with a tool that's possibly going to learn from your customers or your employees' personal data and then apply it to their other customer that's down the street. And, so there's a natural concern about this. And then, of course, there's just the lack of AI expertise and knowledge. This is, folks, this is still new. And especially at the time we were running this survey, I bet a lot of folks in the L&D space were kind of saying, like, hey, this is cool. I can have it auto-generate an email that I want to send to somebody that I don't have the brain space for right now. But is it going to transform the way I design courses or administer big, expensive learning programs? There's still some experimentation and education that needs to go on there. And then similarly to data privacy and security concerns, there's regulatory and compliance concerns there. The fact that especially for larger organizations that are operating in many, many countries, you don't know what this is a problem this is a challenge that is going to move at different speeds in different places. The European Union might slap a whole new mountain of regulations on you that if you have operations in Europe, you're going to have to comply with. And then the US may come up with something completely different, or it may vary highly by state if you're primarily based in the US. So there's a lot of these are, I will say, in support of the voice of the practitioner here, reasonable things to be concerned about, and reasonable things to think about when you're talking about how to best apply AI technology to learning. So looking a little further ahead, this is more recent survey data here, where we're asking the respondent to look in the future about, this is just a general question we had about human capital management functions and the impact AI will have on them. It's a weighted average of a score out of 5. And as you can see, learning and development is in a pretty commanding lead at the top there, followed closely by talent acquisition and talent management. And so I think we're seeing that everybody is seeing the potential for AI to really change the game here. But of course, the question is, what parts of the game is AI going to change? And so finally, we're looking at the priority levels of L&D professionals in the next 2 years. And this is where things get a little bit interesting to my mind. Still a weighted average out of 5. And we're seeing AI is definitely a priority here, and applying it to learning is important. However, it's not the top of the pile. There's still those traditional or big strategic priorities out there that are taking precedence, especially alignment between learning strategy and business goals. I mean, this is just, I feel like I could run this same survey for the next 10 years, and that one would still probably be number one, just because it is a challenge always to keep alignment with your business leaders and where they need to go. And then there's areas where improve the learner experience. That's always an important priority, but of course we can see AI probably has a role in doing that. So you know, this is an interesting look there at where people see things going in the future. And so now I kind of wanted to pause here and get a sense of, you know, Farnaz, how does this mild fire hose of data I just threw at the audience line up with what you're seeing with your client, or with your clientele, the folks that you're seeing doing focus groups with? How does that line up with the data I just shared?
Yeah, so, well, generally speaking, what we commonly see, as you mentioned, the knowledge gap, the security and privacy risks, and all of that, we commonly see that companies have a much easier time using AI when there is human oversight involved on the results produced by AI. So content creation is definitely one of them, and we saw one third of your respondents had also said that they're using AI in that area. So we see that most of our clients have either already tried AI for content creation. Several of them have even taken the initiative to measure the amount of efficiency and improvement they're seeing from using these tools. For example, one reported that they were able to build a course on a fairly technical concept within just a week, with around 9 hours of time spent, as opposed to 3 weeks that would normally take them to build that same thing. And a lot of their efficiency had come from just easier creation of animations. Voiceovers are much easier with AI, and as well as content writing and inspiration that can come more natural and easier to some of their users. Besides that, our clients are also very excited about going beyond content creation into relying on AI assistance, not just AI replacing what they do, but assisting them in coming up with full-on learning experience and delivery mechanisms. Imagine the AI an AI assistant that can help write the content, but also come up with learning activities. And for us as Novoed, that has been one of our value adds for our clients. We've been experts in online pedagogy, and they're really excited for having access to assistants that can help them design learning experience activities that ultimately result in a change of behavior or better performance for the employee who goes through the training. And, you know, this is one of the new capabilities that we are really excited to bring to life. And there is a lot more of them, but mostly focused on making the work more efficient.
Yeah, so it's definitely a kind of like an augmentation approach that we're seeing there, where, you know, probably AI isn't ready to be generating a course out of whole cloth and just like, you know, you just say, make me, you know, write me a course on how to sell B2B software better. It's not going to be able to do a great job of that. But if you have a great foundation built out by humans, you can then speed up the work that it takes to build out a full high quality learning experience.
For sure.
And so the you know, what kinds of challenges are folks looking to solve with AI? Like, are they? We talked about some of them, like taking some of those administrative tasks. Are there any other specifics you care to get into there?
Yes, for sure. I actually saw one question coming through Q&A focused on the company's culture and know-how and essentially process and practice going into content creation with AI. The type of content creation that you can that clients can do today using generic models like using OpenAI's ChatGPT or Claude or what is now available through Microsoft 365 or Google Suites is content writing. Either you're copying and pasting content from your internal document into it and having it rewrite or parse through or create a lesson plan. It is harder to work with. All of that work is involved to bring your company's essentially unique information into the generic AI model to make it work for you. Now, in my mind, a lot of the benefit and efficiency and all of that is going to come from AI that is integrated within your workflow. So you're uploading in whatever raw material is getting sent to you in the position of L&D by your stakeholders, by the managers and teams, from the company, or even the transcript of a call or a Zoom call you took with a subject matter expert into a tool that is not just doing a single shot call to a large language model, but it's a full-on application that's analyzing this data, that's understanding pictures and diagrams within them, that's good at understanding PowerPoint files as well as raw text. The nuance in all of these things becomes in the details and then puts it to use into content that can actually work for you. So beyond content creation that we've spoken a little fairly about, learning delivery, we can get into all the different versions of what is in learning delivery, learning facilitation that L&D teams have to work on and can be augmented with AI. And then we can talk about also personalization, personalized learning recommendations that have started while ago and are just improving, and then use cases in coaching and just-in-time delivery of essentially feedback and guidance to the learners. Those are the wide range of applications, as well as scenario-based learning or simulations, depending on how high fidelity they are. That's the range of applications that we see, and we can also get in the rest of our conversation.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask, just because this is, I'm a fan of sci-fi, and I feel like obligated to ask: should we be worried about AI taking our jobs, or even going further? Like, should we in learning and development be worried about that?
Yeah, I also my mindset over here and our clients is that AI is an augmentation. It's not coming after anyone's jobs. Rather, our clients actually recognize that the one who might be coming for their jobs is another L&D professional who is actually good at making sense of AI and putting it to use in the right context and the company, as opposed to AI itself. So what I see in innovative teams is that instead of shying away or being afraid, they're diving in to find opportunities for removal of those non-strategic aspects of their work, non-strategic yet time-consuming, yet very necessary to get done, right? And these range several of the use cases that we've been touching upon earlier in our conversation. And I just think that there is one thing in common in all of the examples that I look at, and we will be mentioning more and more in our conversation. AI agents should be used for the work that they can do consistently well. So as a result, they can actually free up the human and empower them to reinvest their time in more strategic activities. Ultimately, L&D teams are looking for ways to meet the development needs of the organization more and more with the limited staff they have, with the tooling they have, and expand the reach of those high impact learning to audiences that they are not reaching today. It's kind of like published data that most of the L&D's investment in a training development goes to a small portion of the higher levels of individuals in the organization. And AI tools and these types of efficiencies can just help L&D expand their reach, and as a result,
Mhm.
play a deeper strategic role in helping the company reach its outcomes.
Yeah, very nice. And Rich, I want to bring you in here because you obviously are talking to Novoed clients and such people all the time. How are you seeing people use AI in their work as L&D professionals?
Yeah, I think as Fernaz discussed, our clients are going to use AI to save time and effort, whether it's built into the product at this point or not. What they really want from us is efficiency and security, or maybe I would call that privacy as well. For example, one of our large clients wanted to see assignment and discussion summaries, and we didn't have that built into the product at the time, right? So what they were doing was taking massive amounts of learner text and copying it out of the product and pasting it into ChatGPT. Now, clearly, that's not really efficient and time saving. I mean, it must have been at some level, like to actually do that. But really,
Yeah.
what they wanted was to have that in context right there in the product, right? So these are the kinds of things that when I talk to clients and I was like, well, that's easy. Like we can solve that, right? And our approach was to work with the client, get feedback on this, some of that client feedback that Fernaz has already talked about, and to build it right into the product. So, everything is seen in context and actually fulfills the promise of efficiency, but also our commitment to privacy and security around that company data.
Yeah. So, and we did have a question, maybe it's something to be addressed post webinar, but they did want to, Farnaz, when you were running through that list of different applications, I'm assuming sort of the kinds of use cases and tools that people are using. Allison asked if there's a way to share a list of some of these things afterwards, so that she wants to share these examples with their IT team. So just wanted you guys to have a heads up on that. Great. So moving on and getting deeper on this. I want to talk about the use cases, go deeper into the use cases, both like what's happening now and then also where we see changes for it. Think of this as the AI, what is it good for section. And but before we do that, I've got another poll for you all. And this one is for you to look at what areas of your organization are L&D organization, excuse me, are using or considering using AI for. So you can select all that apply because we want to get, we just want to understand how everybody's using it and for what. But I'll give that a few more seconds. It's a lot of the stuff that we've talked about already: supplemental learning content, analyzing and processing data, transcribing and summarizing content, and personalization. And so I think that the interesting thing will be to see here will be, I mean, I'm sure everybody's doing at least one of these things, except for those folks who said they're not using AI at all. But I'm curious to see what most of you all are doing. So Ivy, why don't you go ahead and share the results now that I've filled enough dead air. Okay. And so I'm seeing, 84% of you doing the supplemental learning content, assessments, templates, videos, etc. And then in second place, transcribing and summarizing content. So, I mean, that is, that lines up with what a lot of what we're seeing here at Brandon Hall Group. But what about you folks at NovoEd?
I'm actually surprised to see the creating end-to-end learning experiences as high as 26%. That's impressive.
Yeah, yeah. And and Andrew Jacobs has chimed in. He says, it can be used for so much more than this: rubrics, MCQ, designing programs, designing evaluation, etc. Yes, agree, Andrew. There's a lot of potential here for ways to speed things up and do more with less. So with that, I'll jump into our next slide here, and we can kind of talk about now that we have an idea where the audience is at, Farnaz. I really want to know, like, again, what you're seeing and what do you see coming further down the road, because we're like, when we were preparing for this, we're talking about this field is moving so fast just in general. So like, what do we see? What do we see coming? What do we see for coming for L&D in particular?
Yeah, I mean, very true that the field is changing so rapidly that just 2 months ago, what AI was good at was different from how we think of it today. For example, Anthropic, which is one of the providers we work with closely, recently released an update to their series of Cloud Sonnet models that is just much better at using a computer. Imagine an AI model that is capable, an AI agent, an AI model that's capable of getting data from the files that are on a computer and filling out a form, understanding a form and filling it out for the human. And this can do that kind of task fairly well, still much less capable than a human, but changing very rapidly with a lot of potential. And, or for example, all of us got into generative AI with ChatGPT, but OpenAI has advanced its models. And now we are working with O1 models that you can think instead of this model being, you can think of ChatGPT as memorizing all the words in the pattern of the words in the world and what appears after what in a statistical model. But you can think of these new O1 models as kind of like remembering the patterns of thinking and breaking down problems. So they can actually do critical thinking type of work, or breaking what necessitates breaking down problems, like what is necessary for building a lesson plan, much better than the previous generation of models. So I'm just using these examples to show just examples of how in the baseline in foundation models, the cutting edge is changing rapidly, something that was kind of like a unique feature set to have in a product on the provider side is becoming more and more commoditized than expected. And I really think that the value to the enterprise, to the L&D folks, and to the employees, to the learners, is going to come more and more from having the right integration points, from having the right application built using AI that goes into the user experience itself, the accuracy of what it provides, the explanation that it provides, and a specificity of the results. So today we see, as someone mentioned in the chat, lots and lots of tools coming out, and many of them feel like feature utilities that are not adding a ton of value outside of context, but we will see them come into our day-to-day tools more and more, and deliver true efficiencies for us. Now, specifically for building applications in learning and development, I mean, we should acknowledge, you were just talking about the privacy and the security challenges. A lot of enterprises are just not comfortable yet for approving AI applications to be used in the company. Right. And realistically, this cutting edge that I'm talking about is not what any team, including L&D, can use at work. So this is really a phase in our journey with AI. That's the place for experimentation, developing a deeper understanding of where it works, the legal and data security and compliance requirements, and deploying it for the safer types of applications, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's sort of it's a bit Wild West, which is exciting and also not without risk. And we've talked a bunch about how, like, I like the example of Anthropic AI, the AI agent being able to actually use the computer, fill out a form. I mean, think about how many aspects of not just the learner experience, but the employee experience in general is how much time and energy is not wasted, but used up by repetitive tasks that are filling out forms or filling out a report or something like that. When, you know, as the AI agents get there and we can deploy it in a safer way, that, you know, think about how much can be accomplished in the same amount of time. And I want to jump on this. Chris Kirsch just asked, can you say more about the use case for Sims and coaching? We actually had a plan to get to that. So Farnaz, if you don't mind, can we talk about simulations and coaching here?
Simulations and coaching, yes. So let's start with simulations. I mean, the power of AI in them truly depends on the level of fidelity you want in the simulation. So for low fidelity types of simulations, I think about a simulation that involves describing a scenario, a situation, or playing it through for the learner, who could be a concierge, basically a type of employee in hospitality, who could be a salesperson or a client support agent in a pharmaceutical company or in a financial services company, just providing advice to clients one way or another and interacting with them. So imagine the simulation is a scenario from the field that the learner has to respond to, but respond to based on some accuracy-related guidelines as well as behavioral guidelines. For example, a salesperson should be curious, not inquisitive, as an example of a behavioral guideline. So AI is actually doing a fairly good job in making these types of simulations accessible. Animations, describing things with voiceovers instead of, you know, having to hire actors per se to make them realistic, can be done with AI. They are scaling that type of simulation. However, when we are getting into more realistic and complex simulations, into realistic role play, which is what many people think about when they are thinking about, you know, AI in simulations, we have ways to go, because that whole storyline, especially when we think about pharmaceuticals, financial services, more regulated industries, covering all the branches of the tree in that one storyline created for a scenario in an accurate way and feeding it into AI by itself is a ton of work. So if the type of role play is in an area that kind of like common sense in a way could do a ton of work. For example, when we are talking about basics of management, foundations of leadership, even vulnerability, you know, setting smart goals, things that a lot has been written about. AI can do a fairly reliable job at doing role play and can be trusted. But when we get to regulated environments, then the simpler, lower fidelity simulations are really what AI can be trusted with. So the more complex, the more nuanced is still harder to build, very heavy to maintain, and just expensive to deploy. Yeah. And yeah, coaching was the next one, right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, coaching is its own category that I actually think that has a ton of room for innovation, and we haven't even started seeing where it can be useful. I think that we are discussing AI is just good at providing that like baseline first line of feedback and coaching moment. Imagine in the use cases that we're talking about a client-facing employee practicing how would they respond to a certain type of inquiry. AI is really good at parsing a guideline provided to it for the content of what the learner needed to cover, and for some behavioral aspects as well, and provide that baseline feedback. So it can be used to actually make sure that the human time that if you're having your managers coach people, if you're bringing in subject matter experts from different parts of the company to coach people, it helps for their time to be spent on the more nuanced, contextualized type of coaching. That's just in the context of learning and development. However, something that we see more and more, AI is good at understanding methodology fairly well if it's described in a way that an AI model understands. This doesn't mean that a document as written for humans would work for an AI model. And I don't know if you guys have heard the words like fine-tuning a model. It's one way of making a large language model more accurate for a specific use case. Or few-shot prompting, which means explaining different by example, just like you would teach your 5-year-old kid what empathy means by showing in examples of behavior. You can think of a large language model just like that. It's a very small developing brain that in few shot prompting, an engineer or a prompt designer sits and describes different situations to the AI so it can respond much better. So there are many, many techniques like that. So we would see those used with preparatory knowledge of methodology, either in leadership development or in product management, in design thinking, in many different disciplines, that there are kind of like authorities of knowledge, those training companies or even universities or like providers who have the know-how, and will provide these models that can provide coaching on the methodology, but based on a much more sophisticated understanding of that methodology. And, where would they be deployed? Unclear, but however much better integrated into our flow of work applications, where the users actually are, the better. So we can think that maybe in the future, right now, I work with our product team a lot. When I'm reading a product requirements document, a lot of my commentary goes on style, on how to write something in a way that is supposed to be written, and content. Google Suites as a provider of collaboration tools, Microsoft 365 as a provider of collaboration tools, could be one of the vehicles that delivers that type of just work moment coaching. So it may not be living in necessarily learning applications. There is also opportunity for learning applications in what Novo tries to do with our clients, which is bring learning and kind of like work products created in learning. If there's a project, for that to be really close to the work that people are doing in their teams, even go through it as a team, right? For providers like us, the opportunity becomes in focusing on certain populations and audiences in the company, and then creating very well tuned models that can address that just in time, but again, focus on work product feedback that is being provided in the journey of the learning experience.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we've got a question here. It's a sort of asking, it's touching on a lot of things here, but essentially they're talking about using a tool for role playing in sales enablement, and essentially like where they're having the challenge is to create the right buyer persona. The template, like having templated prompts that can be modified for the specific requirements of the role play. I'm assuming, just off the top of my head, it would be like industry, seniority, and then like different types of personality types that you might typically see as a salesperson working with those kinds of buyers. And then, so how can AI be modified, and the AI buyer persona be modified and customized to be as real as possible, is what I'm picking up on this question. And then how can the AI tool consume other content from proprietary AI models and apply it to that kind of coaching? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I think, I mean, I would say to Teresa here who has asked that question, do you have a long ways to go for role play to actually be realistic and work well? And it will be very use cases specific. As you say, when we are looking at sales enablement, either it is a large language model or other type of more traditional machine learning or AI model, it really needs to be contextualized and fine-tuned for that specific use case. And we are not there yet. I personally believe that full-on fluid role play with AI, we have ways to go to accomplish that. And what we see, the demos that we see, they work well for very generic use cases. And as you say, as soon as you get into customizing it for the specifics of your environment, then it just cannot be done with a piece of document. It needs more than that. So I think we have ways to go for that. It works much better when it's not really a back and forth. It's a one shot here of a description of a situation, some decision moment, some response, some coaching moment. That can be done with, as you say, write-ups of personas and the documents that the companies already have. But then when you get into a back and forth, a ton more work is necessary to help the AI understand and grasp that full context.
Yeah, Fernaz, if I could jump in there. When I was reading that one, I was thinking that the most challenging part of a sales conversation is objections and objection handling, right? And at this point, most AI models are going to spit out objections that are probably pretty standard, where the reality of a sales situation, I've supported enough sales calls in my life, and the objections that are difficult to deal with are always very specific to the client and very like something that you really can't prepare for unless you knew the client really deeply, right? And I just don't see that AI is going to model that kind of buyer behavior in a realistic way yet.
Yeah. Good discussion there. Thanks for to the audience for being so active here. I wanted to kind of shift gears over to personalization and learning quickly, just because we see that's a big, there's just a big demand around making the learning experience more personalized, making it more relevant to the individual learner, where they are, what their learning style is, all that kinds of things. Can you give us a picture of how AI can help organizations get there in terms of personalization?
I think personalization of learning is something that AI has been trying to do, but reinforcement learning, adaptive learning technologies used to be what we had. Then we went into the recommendation realm, like learning recommended to someone based on an understanding of what the skills they have and what the skills they need to gain and all of that. So it kind of like the technology in that kind of found a basic ways of using personalization has been in place. I would say, though, even in those applications, personalization works when it's being fed relevant data. And the hard part of this for companies has been in that keyword, relevant data. What data is available about the employee, about what measurements are available for different types of skills? Can they be relied on? Can they be done in a way and measured in a way that are not like additional effort and chore, and they are more naturally embedded in the employee's journey with the company? And we have been saying in the machine learning AI world for the past 15 to 20 years that actually the most differentiating part of deploying such types of applications is lives in the data. And I would say the same here. We are all going to be sold a lot on value propositions that are focused on personalization based on skills and skill gaps. And earlier in this call, I think Tracy, I think, mentioned that there is an interesting difference between companies are still thinking that they can do personalization and they're using for personalization, but they have a skill training and a skill development and measurement gaps. And really that's the challenge. The devil is in that detail. What can we measure and what can we feed into the AI that's supposed to be doing personalization? On our end, what we are looking at when we look at personalized learning is also other things like basic things like quizzing in learning experiences could be up for being replaced with a more personalized, coaching-oriented conversation. All of us have seen the case studies that come out of different business schools. There's a case and there is many pages of notes that are the teaching notes for the case. Those types of things are actually easy for AI to understand, and then come and play the role of that teacher for the learner. And instead of quizzing them, ask them more intentional questions based on responses that they've already given or where they are in the training, and act as kind of like a more personalized coach, TA, learning advisor, whatever you want to call it, and replace the role of one-directional fixed quizzing, for example. There could be other personalizations in the place that we sit. We have L&D folks creating beautiful modules of content, and then when they run into a new audience or a new use case or a new development problem in the organization, they are the ones that have to think about all the pieces of all the Lego pieces they have been creating over time on our platform, and then bring it together in a new build, essentially, for a new audience. And I would love us to be in a place where they can give some guidelines, or even the learner comes in and interacts and shares a few things about what they need to learn, and we craft that real-time learning experience, but based on content that's already validated, that's already created by the learning team. So lots of different angles that personalization can take, apart from what we are used to today in the market.
Sorry, I'm on mute. Yeah, thank you for that. It's exciting to think about where we're going there. So as we move on here, we've touched on it several times, but security and compliance considerations, I mentioned that was one of the top barriers here. So I just want to take a quick pulse of the audience again, and ask everybody, are security concerns and policies delaying the adoption of AI for learning in your organization? And it's, a simple yes or no. So we'll get that poll up on the screen, and then once Ivy is once we've got enough time there, we can share the results. Ivy, do we have a good sample size yet? Going up. So anyways, we'll give it another few seconds here and then take a look at the results. Yeah, so not unexpected. I'm guessing 72% saying this is a problem, or a reason for the delay of AI and learning in your organization. Is that kind of what you guys were expecting, Rich and Farnaz?
Yes.
For sure, yes. Companies are just protective of their data. So I would actually say to our audience here that there is a difference between AI that's ingesting the company data, building a model off of it. So there are some key questions like that might be good for you to answer in advance and contextualize your AI-related initiative for your security and data teams. And that can make the process faster or easier. And generally, companies are sensitive with good reasons. For example, Microsoft 365's built-in Copilot AI Very useful. Great. It is reading emails, creating, calendar events and action items. Very useful in, removing administrative tasks, but at the same time, it's vulnerable to a lot of, we used to have malware and, spam and phishing. Now we have promptware. It's vulnerable to hidden prompts in emails that it's going to read and then put some data from some file into a calendar invite and put someone else from the universe in the CC in that calendar invite and expose company data. And that's very simple. So AI agents that are taking action on behalf of users are going to be a lot more sensitive for the companies than the ones that are providing some information to you, and then you are the one who decides whether action should be taken or not. So there's some criteria like that it could be helpful for you to apply when you're positioning your new AI application or endeavor for your security and IT teams. That could make it much easier for them to work with you and approve it, rather than putting you through the longer path of approval.
And Rich, I wanted to get a sense of, like, when you and your team are helping clients implement or adopt new AI features, what kind of security concerns have you encountered? Like, where are you getting pushback where they're like, I don't know if we're ready for that yet?
Well, I think really what we're seeing is a lot of confusion. So in NovoEd, we've made all of our AI features opt-in. And so they have to be turned on by administrators. But one of the biggest challenges to adoption is just this confusion over who's allowed to enable them, or whose permission is needed, to turn on this one little switch, right? It's one little switch, but it enables a lot of capability. And companies are just still figuring this out. They have processes for evaluating and approving software products. But what happens when there are new capabilities in these pre-approved products that need further approvals? So those things just aren't all worked out yet.
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense. It's definitely that, like, we didn't know that when we bought this tool and the CTO approved it, or the CIO approved it, we didn't know that it was going to all of a sudden be able to do this stuff. And so now we've got to talk to the lawyers or the compliance department or whoever. So what advice do you have for members of the audience here who are trying to figure out, who see some of the potentials here, and they really want to adopt these new features or these new technologies from AI? How do you advise them on getting from A to B, getting to yes on this?
Well, first, establish those processes I just talked about, right? Every application you use is probably going to have some kind of AI toggles, or if, actually, maybe it won't be a toggle. Maybe you won't have a choice and you'll have to reevaluate things. So I think establish processes for adopting AI technologies, but also make sure that teams are empowered to figure out how it serves them best as well, and how to implement it, because this can't just be top down, one size fits all. I think companies need to be open to experimentation, but they need to make sure that there's human oversight there, and and some data protection as well. Data protection policies, that is.
Well, and in kind of moving right along with that, I did want to get one more poll in before we close things out today and get to some questions. The question is what Rich just was talking about right now. In your organization, who needs to authorize the adoption of these AI tools? There might be no central authorization needed. Maybe that person is you, or there's a well-defined process, or you just have no idea. So give us that answer, and then Ivy, I think we've had it up long enough. We got at least a pretty good sense of who shakes out where. Okay, great. So we have congratulations, 67% of you have some defined evaluation process. That's more than I was expecting, honestly. We have just a few people who can actually make the call themselves, and then there's a significant minority of you who are not sure or have no process that you're aware of. So a pretty good spread there.
That's encouraging, because that's better than that response would have been just a few months ago, I think.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's working on this stuff all the time, and so it's not surprising that it's evolving quickly. So, so Rich, I want to get to our final little chunk here. What are you seeing what have you guys learned, and how are you applying it? Like, what have you guys learned from this revolution in technology that we're living through right now from your clients, and sort of how is it showing up in the way you guys are approaching product?
Yeah, and this is where I'll just talk just a moment about our product and our approach to implementation of AI, because what we learned from our clients is really that they wanted a very deliberate and useful approach to AI, and one that is also human centric. Because yeah, actually, if you go on to the next slide, I think it'll be good to talk about that, because um, our platform is built on human connections, right? And so there's a lot of AI washing out there in the industry of just putting the term AI on anything, and we didn't want to do that, right? And so we talked to our clients and we got feedback. Fernaz talked a lot about what we learned from them, and so what we built is called Novo AI, and it's our collection of AI tools that are in the NovoEd platform that make it easy to build high impact learning. And we wanted to make sure that we go beyond just content creation and helping the team reach learners with these rich experiences. Next slide, please. Yeah, so our approach really was also an AI that puts people first. And like, that's not just a marketing slogan. Like, we cannot lose the core of our foundation of being a people-centric learning platform, right? And so we constantly have to strike this balance and making sure that it remains that way, and that this is real, that we really do put people first. So Novo AI right now is working across every part of learning programs on our platform. We have it implemented from authoring to administration to delivery. And it's all about scaling things like feedback, like practice, application, and social learning, the things that Fernaz talked about in the use cases. And then, finally, we closed on security and privacy. And I'll just wrap up really quickly with, our AI models ensure logical separation of client data. All of the data is governed by our SOC 2 Type 2 compliance. And the adoption of AI models is optional, as I mentioned. And I'm really glad to see that 2/3 of the people on this webinar would know how to get those turned on if needed in the platform. So that was good news to see.
Excellent. So we are over our time today. Sorry about that, folks, but I did try to get a lot of your questions in already, but we're all out of time there for Q&A. But if you put something in here, we can always follow up as needed after the webinar. Ivy, I believe we have an announcement to make.
Yes, thank you, Alan, and thank you, Rich and Fernaz. Congratulations to our 2 raffle winners. The first one winning 50% off the 2025 HCM Excellence Conference is Chris Kirsch. Congratulations, Chris. The second one winning a free submission to our Excellence in Action program is Wei Ping Q. Congratulations to the both of you. We will be reaching out shortly with more details. Back to you, Alan.
All right. Well, Thank you everybody so much for attending. The audience interaction was fantastic. And I want to remind everybody that you'll get a PDF of the presentation and a link to the recording within the next 24 hours. And thanks again to Rich and Fernaz at NovoEd for their sponsorship and their expertise on this webinar. And we hope you will join us for another exciting Brandon Hall Group webinar as your time and schedule allow.